Chapter 81, The Noisy Neighbor, Hanyu's POV. Lord Julia stood in the bedroom doorway to inform everybody at once that her recommendation for Asao's care hadn't changed. Several days' bed rest with plenty to eat. And no feeding from him, though I imagine you guessed that part, she added as an afterthought. Of course, Anthony agreed. He had grudgingly allowed Hanyu to remove his shirt, and Hanyu could see a few small red spots soaked through his bandages, but they weren't large enough to truly alarm him. It was a relief to know that Anthony would heal no matter how he abused his stitches. It made Hanyu feel a little less guilty for being glad that he had torn them tonight. Lord Julia seemed to be of the same opinion. She tutted at him a little as she cleaned the wounds and restitched the worst of the damage, but there was no real heat to her scolding. She seemed so pleased by Asao's rescue that Hanyu couldn't help loving her for it, no matter how forbidding she seemed. "All right," she said at last, when the last bits of Anthony's fresh bandage had been secured. "I'll be coming back at least once a day and once a night to change bandages and apply medicines for the both of you. Otherwise, Hanyu, you're in charge. You can give Asao 3 drops from this bottle twice a day, but no more. It can be addictive. And if he has a bad reaction, just ask me for a different painkiller. I have more. Otherwise, keep him hydrated and both of them fed. I'm going to see if Felix can recommend someone to come give Anthony some blood. Don't look at me like that, boy. He needs more than you can safely give, and Asao won't be feeding anyone for at least 2 weeks. Yes, my lord, Hanyu assented reluctantly. Good man. She patted his shoulder. I'll see about that volunteer and find someone to fetch Asao's things, and I'll be back before long. Have a good night, you 3. Childishly, Hanyu wanted to beg her to stay. As long as she was there, there was a disruption in the status of the rooms. Once she was gone, the changes would start to feel real as the 3 of them started to set the pattern of their new situation. He kept his mouth shut, by some miracle, and Lord Julia shut the door behind her as she left. You should check on Asao, Anthony said immediately, slumping onto the pillows. I'm going to get some sleep. Hanyu's heart sank. Out here? I don't want to rip my stitches again, snorted the god. A 3rd time, and she might get truly angry. Best if I sleep alone. You 2 take the bed. All right. Hanyu could see the sense in his suggestion, but still. Are you sure? Anthony dropped his voice to a whisper. In order to hear him, Hanyu had to lean so close that their cheeks almost brushed. If the ship rocked right now, I would probably press my face against his. I could pretend to stumble. I think my presence would make Asao nervous right now, Anthony breathed, shaking Hanyu from his shameful imaginings. It'd be better if it's just the 2 of you. All right, Hanyu repeated. There was more he should be saying to Anthony, more he wanted to say, but the thought of Asao alone in the bedroom tugged at him, and he left his master on the sofa. Asao was rigid under the sheets. His face seemed paler than usual, but he was always so pale these days that it was hard to tell for sure. He only turned and looked at Hanyu when he came to sit on the side of the bed, and that look was so furious that Hanyu flinched. Asao tugged weakly at his arm, and Hanyu allowed himself to be pulled down so that his ear was almost pressed to Asao's mouth. Only then did the smaller man begin speaking. I told you not to say anything, he breathed. Hanyu had never heard a whisper so quiet, but he could still feel the rage in the words. Why didn't you listen? I didn't! Hanyu's whisper wasn't nearly as quiet, and Asao flinched. I did. I listened to you. I never asked him to take you, I promise. My lord won't stand for it, Asao hissed back. He'll take me back. I know he will. With all this damn whispering, Hanyu couldn't tell if that statement was resigned or hopeful. Tearful and inexplicably angry, Hanyu's response was also a hiss. He won't take you back if Anthony doesn't let him. Anthony's in charge here, not Marcus, and Anthony says you're his now, so you are. I'm sorry if you don't like having your life saved and your dreams come true, but you're just going to have to deal with it. Given the position of their heads, Hanyu couldn't see Asao's face, but he saw his friend's thin, bandaged hand gripping the bed sheets in fists. My life is not in danger. It was just a little kick. I deserved it for my clumsiness. The priest would have agreed, Hanyu knew. Perhaps Hanyu would even have said the same if it had been him. But he knew Esau. Esau was good and kind, and he always served Marcus with his whole heart. "You don't deserve to be beaten and kicked for every little mistake," Hanyu whispered fiercely. Esau's answering whisper was just a touch louder than before. "I deserve whatever it pleases my master to do to me." "That didn't think so. Neither does Antony or Lord Julia. Are you saying they're wrong?" Esau fell silent, but Hanyu could still feel his anger in the tension of his shoulders, hear it in the sharp edges on the slow, deep breaths he took. Then Hanyu glanced down at Esau's fists again and realized that the gesture was probably meant to keep his hands from shaking. All the teary, prickly defensiveness went out of him. Of course Esau was frightened. Everything was changing just as quickly for him as it was for Hanyu, but unlike Hanyu, he didn't understand yet that he could trust in Antony's protection. It all probably seemed too good to be true, and he couldn't allow himself to believe in his good fortune just in case it should all be jerked away from him again. When Hanyu spoke again, he tried to convey all the gentleness he was capable of, though it was hard to do in a whisper. "Well, if you deserve whatever your master says you do, that's fine. Antony is your master now, and he says you deserve a soft bed and a lot of food and plenty of rest." To his shock, Esau flopped back onto the pillows with a whimper, his face crumpled and miserable. Damn, Hanyu really had lost his touch when it came to comforting his friend. A knock at the door gave him an excellent excuse to leap out of the bed and flee the room. Had he ever felt like he was escaping when he left Antony's bedchamber before? Usually that room was where everything could be simple, where the chaos and troubles of the day could fall away as he cuddled up to his god's tightly coiled form. Would he ever experience that kind of total relaxation and comfort again? Antony had a pillow pressed to either side of his head, but he dropped them both on the floor as Antony entered the sitting room. That was strange. Hanyu had never seen him do that before. Still, there was no time to ask just then. Lord Cloelia stood in the doorway, holding a palette under one tattooed, muscle-thick arm and a chest under the other. Her broad, handsome face was split by a blindingly white smile, sharp fangs on full display. "Hanyu!" she bellowed. "You must be Hanyu, right?" Hanyu nodded, struck dumb for once, and completely forgot to bow as she shouldered past him into the room, still talking loudly. "Thaddy said you had shark-colored hair, but I think it looks like sunlight. Trust Antony to find a ray of sunshine to keep around. Hello, Antony." "Hello, Cloelia," Antony grumbled. "Don't shout, we're a house full of invalids." "Sorry," the big god boomed, only slightly quieter. "But I'm so excited to meet you, Hanyu." He was never going to get used to gods, the legendary figures he'd heard about his whole life, expressing an interest in meeting him. It was especially funny coming from Lord Cloelia, when all of this had been set in motion by his desire to meet her tonight. "Everyone says you're awfully nice," Lord Cloelia went on, "and you made Thaddy so happy looking at his fish with him, so of course when Jules asked me to get Esau's things—" "That was fast," Antony interrupted. "You got them already?" The big god set the palette and the chest on the floor with surprising care. "I think these are the right things. They were piled outside Marcus's door, so I just assumed, but that was stupid of me. I should have gone in and asked. Sorry, Esau." Then, spinning on her heels to survey the room, "Where's Esau?" "Bedroom," Antony sighed. "Bring them in so he can check, all right?" Lord Cloelia grinned. "Good idea. Come on, Hanyu." Hanyu followed, still struck silent, and found Esau doing his best to approximate a bow from the bed. It looked a little ridiculous, and Hanyu was grateful that Lord Cloelia didn't laugh at his friend's efforts. "Hello again," she said instead, in what was probably meant to be a quiet voice. "We weren't exactly introduced. I'm Cloelia, Thaddeus and Julia's lover. It's so nice to meet you and Hanyu both in the same day." "You honor your humble servants, my lord," Esau murmured, still bent comically over the sheets. "Ah, yes!" Hanyu was so relieved to have been fed the polite response that he felt a grin stretching his face. "Me too, what he said, my lord." Lord Cloelia set the chest down again and rumbled a laugh. "No need for any of that. Cloelia will do just fine, though it is quite the mouthful, so if you'd rather just point and say, 'Hey you,' I understand. Now sit up and let's see if this old dunderhead took the wrong chest. Wouldn't it be funny if I accidentally stole Marcus's laundry?" Hanyu snorted, but when Esau obediently straightened, he looked even worse than before. Much as Hanyu himself immediately liked Lord Cloelia, it occurred to him that she might not exactly be a soothing presence for someone who had been subjected to a number of shocks that night. "Is this yours?" the god asked, drawing his gaze back to her. She was holding a sheer robe with intricate silver stitching, the sort of thing that made the wearer feel more naked than actual nudity, but she brandished it like a captured flag. Asau flushed weakly and ducked his head. "Yes, my lord," he managed. "There, see, Antony?" Lord, no, just Cloelia, called into the next room. "They're his things." "Wonderful," Antony sniped back. "Thank you for fetching them. Now go away, will you? I swear I'm grateful, but we all need some sleep, and you're too loud." Fine, I see how it is." She grinned at Hanyu and Asau. "Don't be strangers, all right? And let me know if you ever want a tattoo. We can design whatever you want." With that unexpected offer, she thudded out of the room. "Jules had me feeling sorry for you," she said in the sitting room, presumably to Antony. "But now I see she's got you locked up with 2 gorgeous men, so I take back my sympathy." "Cloelia," Antony groaned. She laughed. "What? I'm supposed to pretend they're not gorgeous?" Antony heaved a long-suffering sigh, then muttered, "You think everybody's gorgeous." "That's because everybody is. So there, and so long." The door slammed shut, and Asau relaxed spasmodically. Yes, Hanyu definitely should not invite Cloelia over in the near future. Too bad, he liked her. Wait, why was he thinking like that? It wasn't his place to invite anybody into his god's rooms. He'd really let Antony's offhand comment about him being the other master of the place go to his head. "I'm going to get some sleep now," Antony called from the sitting room. "I suggest you two do the same. It's been an eventful evening." That was an understatement. Still, Hanyu managed to keep from laughing, instead chorusing, "Yes, my lord," in near perfect time with Asau. He stepped into the sitting room, suddenly shy and feeling the need to retrieve his never-worn sleeping clothes. Antony had the pillows pressed to his head again, but he looked up when Hanyu came in. "Put his chest in with yours, will you?" the god asked. "It'll do for tonight. We can allocate space more permanently once I'm up and around." "All right." Hanyu lugged the trunk into the closet. Damn, it was a lot heavier than Cloelia had made it seem, and quickly changed. Antony was still under his pillows when Hanyu emerged. His chest wasn't moving, but Hanyu couldn't tell whether he was asleep or just not bothering to breathe. He should have asked if there's anything he could get Antony while his master was still awake. He wasn't being a very attentive attendant, but it was hard to get used to the idea that Antony would sleep out here, not with him. He wasn't used to any kind of goodbye at the end of the night. He couldn't stop himself from whispering, "Sleep well," but Antony didn't stir. When he walked past the bed on his way to wash up, he thought at first that his friend was asleep as well. However, slipping under the covers next to Asau proved otherwise. The man was as tense as a harp string. "Asau?" Hanyu whispered. "Are you all right?" Asau's face as he turned towards Hanyu would no doubt appear in any number of forthcoming nightmares. His eyes were wide and glassy, but dry, even as his lips quavered and his breath came in pants. "Our lord is asleep?" he mouthed. Hanyu nodded, though in truth he wasn't sure. He expected Asau to relax at the news, but instead the smaller man lunged across the bed and gripped his shoulder with desperate, feverish strength. "Tell me the rules," he hissed. "Please, Hanyu, I don't know any of them, and I can't have another master throw me away. Please! You win, all right? I know you've won. You're our lord's favorite, your first slave, so please just—" Hanyu was reduced to helpless sputtering. There's no... "Please," Asau repeated, the desperation in his pale face and his ragged whisper cutting through Hanyu's confusion. He might not know how to untangle everything that had just spilled from Asau's mouth, but he could do as the man had asked and hope that it would make a start towards soothing those fears. "We're in charge of tidying the rooms," he said, trying desperately to think. What were the rules? "Except for making the bed, I guess. He usually does that. We have to tell him if we can't get food, water, sleep, or the chamber pot. We're not supposed to go running around the ship by ourselves." Hanyu still had a punishment coming for his flaunting of that last rule. Would Asau be watching? The thought made his gut twist unpleasantly. Asau had seen him punished 1,000 times, of course, but punishments from Antony felt very different from punishments from the priests. He didn't think he'd like Esau to see the way he responded to Antony's discipline. Again. "What else?" pleaded Esau, still staring at him with that frantic hunger. Hanyu felt a note of pleading enter his own voice in return. "I can't think of any others. If he wants you to do something, he'll just tell you." "I can't make my lord ask," Esau whimpered. "I need to be better than that. How can I please him? Hanyu, please, I need Lord Antony to keep me." Hanyu's head was spinning. "He will." "No." Letting go of Hanyu's arm, Esau dropped his head into his hand. "He'll throw me out like my master, my old master did." "Marcus didn't throw you out," Hanyu protested. "Antony took you." "Lord Cloelia said that Lord Marcus had piled my things outside his door. What does that sound like to you?" "Like he was throwing a tantrum," Hanyu replied, before he could think better of it. Esau peeked out of his fingers, and Hanyu flinched at the cold fury in his gaze. "I'm going to get some sleep," he spat. "That's what our Lord told us to do. I certainly intend to follow his orders." He threw himself down on the bed and didn't turn back to face Hanyu again.